Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Pleasant Ridge Negro Colony located in Grant County here, between here and Lancaster. And a lot of times there's been lots of articles written, but this one that we'll be reading parts of today, done by Cooley, who is now currently band director at River Ridge. He spent some time also at Potosi there, and why he chose that as a topic back when he put this article together, why he chose that to talk about. And we'll see some of the relatives from back that had some connection in the area, and so we'll get to find out a little bit more about that. And we'll see a few pictures. There's not a whole lot, but there's a few that we'll also take a look at. Now he starts out here, Pleasant Ridge was the black settlement founded in Grant County, Wisconsin in 1848 and lasted until 1959, when the last black property owner died. In 1848, William E. Horner left his native state of Virginia for Wisconsin. William E. Horner, a plantation owner and master of slaves, sold his plantation in Haymarket, Warren County, Virginia, and freed his slaves. He and 7 of his newly freed slaves, the shepherds, traveled first by ox team to Illinois, and from there northward by riverboat to his father, Joseph Horner's farm. Joseph Horner's farm was sold to him by the United States of America on November 25, 1836 in Grant County, Wisconsin, before Wisconsin became a state. Then William E. Horner and the shepherds arrived in Dunlop, Illinois, now called East Dubuque. The shepherds first lived in a hotel in Lancaster and worked for the Horners. William then bought large tracts of land 5 miles west of Lancaster and called the area Pleasant Ridge because it was atop high ground and offered a pleasant view to all. A few years after their arrival, the shepherds purchased land sold to them by William E. Horner at $1.50 an acre. The Grimes and Greens family from St. Charles County, Missouri also bought land from William E. Horner. The first years of Pleasant Ridge were difficult. With the help of white neighbors, they cleared land, built log cabins, a church that also served as a school, and began raising crops and rearing children. Charles Shepherd and his wife Carolyn had the distinction of giving birth to the first black child born in the county. During the Civil War, 65 blacks from Wisconsin served in the Union Army. 6 of them were from Pleasant Ridge. Now I'll skip over a little bit here so we don't get too long here, but there's lots of other information here about this group here involved there with the Civil War. After the war, the community continued to grow and prosper. In the early 1870s, blacks and whites from the area built a school district number 5. Now sometimes referencers are wondered, was this the first integrated type school? Well, that's always hard to prove because other places maybe like to say the same thing. But it's something interesting and something to keep in mind that was unusual for us here. Yeah, both blacks and whites attended this school. It was here that many of the ex-slaves received their first schooling. As the students became educated, they moved to larger cities for jobs. During the decline of the Negro settlement, the school was abandoned and moved to a neighboring farm. Relationships between the blacks and whites were harmonious. They cooperated and shared their lives with each other. But in 1883, harmony died violently with a couple of incidents of interracial relationships. Now, I'll skip over this part just to save time, but always in history you have to mention the bad with the good. in order to be accurate, and that's what Aaron did in this article. So it's not being left out or anything. But I'll move on to a few other things so we can get to some of why he was so interested in it as a topic. The harmonious days of Pleasant Ridge began at the beginning of the 20th century when the population reached 200. In 1898, a log cabin was built on a wooded piece of land donated by a wealthy citizen. The people of the area were called the building the Hall. It became the community center and was here where the citizens attended their picnics and the autumn leaf festivals. Now we get some of the later information here and how some of the area is currently used. Today, this is in 1998, the University of Wisconsin Experimental Farm owns much of the Pleasant Ridge land. Other people that continue to farm the original farms at this time of Pleasant Ridge are Alan Swanes, Darwin Anderson, and Mrs. Grant Atkinson. Frank and Allie Atkinson, my great-great-great aunt and uncle, were owners of the original Grimes farm. My great-grandfather, Carl Cooley, and his brother Clyde Cooley farmed the Ollie Green Lewis farm on shares in the 1950s. Charles Green, a World War I veteran, was the last survivor of the Pleasant Ridge area. He was Ollie Lewis's hired man. He died in the Lancaster Care Center in 1977. In 1948, the year Wisconsin became a state, this unique community with one ex-plantation owner and 7 former slaves was carved out of the rolling hills of Grant County, Wisconsin. 130 years later, when this was written, the last black property owner, Ollie Hattie Lewis Green, died. And with her died what was once a vibrant, living, unique Pleasant Ridge. So something that we need to remember, part of our history, very interesting part. And we'll look at a few pictures here that we have, of course, a picture there on the beginning of the Pleasant Ridge article by Aaron Cooley. And there we see a kind of a group picture. Next we have Charles Edward Shepard. See a picture of him shown here. And then we have Isaac Shepard, a former slave from Virginia, pictured in the 1870s as a pillar of the Pleasant Ridge community in Grant County. And there we see some of the children mentioned. Here we have a picture of Thomas Green. He was an escaped slave originally from Missouri. And here Frances Green and her brother Thomas, pictured in Pleasant Ridge during the 1920s. Now the booklet, which also contains other black settlers in rural Wisconsin, but this is how the cover looks, and we have a copy of this down here in the history room. And there are other articles that get into more detail too on the black settlement.